Welcome back. I'm going to show you the 4 best places in Shadowlands to farm herbs and ore with flying. Just 10 minutes of farming in any of these places will get you between 6,000 and 10,000 gold. Most places you go in Shadowlands will randomly have a chance to spawn Death Blossom and Lacestride Ore. This stuff is cheap. You won't get rich off that. The other herbs and ores are worth a lot more. My routes are the best because you only get the good stuff and none of the cheap rubbish. The first route is in Revendreth. We'll get Widowbloom and Sinvyr ore. We're going to the top left corner of the zone. This area is called Dominance Keep, and it's full of elite mobs. So you'll need to watch out for a couple of things. We'll start the route at the flight point and we'll do a short lap through the keep. There's a little bit of Sinvyr around the edge here, a lot of Widowbloom in the upper courtyard, and a lot more down in the lower courtyard. Or, if you prefer to look at a map, this route is basically a triangle, and this is where all the nodes can spawn. Now there's a couple of things you'll need to watch out for. There's a whole heap of flying mobs in this area. If they aggro you, you're probably going to have to kill them. So just keep an eye out for them and try to avoid them. The second thing to watch out for is that one of the Sinvyr nodes is actually invisible. You can see this node on my minimap, but where is it? See where these ledges come together? From there, find these 2 rocks and click in between them, and that will let you get the invisible ore. With that out of the way, let me show you the route. I'm starting here at the flight point. I'll start my stopwatch, and I'll fly up along the route into the upper courtyard. There should be about 2 or 3 Widowbloom up here in this courtyard. Make sure you fly all the way up to the northern point because there's often a couple of nodes here. We'll go back down into the courtyard and we'll get our 3rd Widowbloom. Going good. With the courtyard cleared, we're now going to go off to the edge of the cliff to get some Sinvyr. There's 1 node. And there's usually at least 2 nodes to get around here. Then we pop down to the lower courtyard. Watch out for the flying bats, and we should be able to get 2 more herbs down here. And that's pretty much the end of the loop. As you can see from the stopwatch, it takes about 2 minutes, and we got about 2,000 gold worth of stuff. I continued this for about 10 minutes, and you don't want to watch all of that, so here's a very quick edit. I do pull some mobs occasionally, which is a bit annoying and slows me down, but there's no elite mobs near the ore, so you should be right to kill anything that you do pull. You'll notice that I've got some Elethium ore. These routes that I'm showing you today are the only places that you can get Elethium outside of the moor. This route is one of my favourite places to farm. It's usually pretty quiet, I'm the only one here, I get a lot of good stuff, and I make a lot of gold. So all in all, it's pretty peaceful. Here I'm mining that invisible node that I spoke about earlier. And here's this stupid bat that I got too close to and had to kill. So this brings us close to the 10-minute mark. So after just 10 minutes, I got over 9,000 gold. That's almost 1,000 gold every minute. That's crazy. I really hope that you guys can make as much gold here as I do. Please subscribe. I make a whole bunch of other cool Warcraft videos too. Check them out. Let's go to Bastion. Here we'll get Solenium ore and Rising Glory, up here in the top left corner of the zone. The Citadel of Loyalty. It's another area that's full of elite mobs, as well as a few traps to watch out for. This loop is pretty tiny. It just goes up and around this area here. There's a really decent amount of ore, as well as a lot of herbs in this area. So here's the Citadel on the map, and this tiny area here is where we'll be farming. And this is where all the nodes spawn. Now you've got to watch out for these beacons. When you get near them, they explode. So wait for the explosion before you dive in to get the ore. If you're really quick, you can dart in and get the ore before the explosion goes off. But if you get caught in the explosion, you'll be disoriented for a few seconds, and you'll also be put into combat, which will stop you from mounting for a few seconds. So just play it safe and avoid the explosion. Wait for it to go off, then go and get the goods. There's also a few mobs that are really close to the herbs. If you're quick, they shouldn't be a problem. Now let me show you a lap. I'll start my stopwatch, and let's go! There's almost always a node right here on the edge of the cliffs. I like to do this loop in an anti-clockwise direction, but you do whatever floats your boat. This herb here is near a beacon, but we can grab it quickly and off we go. Now this pocket over here near the water is really nice. There's no mobs here, and there's quite a few nodes to grab. So there's 4 nodes here at the moment, which is really nice. We can grab them all pretty quickly and move on. From here we'll head back to where we started, and that's a full loop. It only takes about a minute. That's super quick. And we got 1,000 gold. That's pretty good. And as you can see, the nodes have already respawned and we can keep doing some laps. Now again, I continued farming for about 10 minutes, and here's a quick edit. Unfortunately, the Selenium ore and the Rising Glory that you get don't usually sell for a whole lot of gold. This is actually a really good route because we get a lot of stuff, but it just isn't worth that much. So check the prices on your server, but for me, I don't usually come here very often. As you can probably see, I'm pulling aggro on quite a few of the mobs, but it's not a big deal. A few of the nodes are near beacons, so you do have to watch out for that. Here I got a bit greedy and tried to beat the beacon, but I got stunned, and that slowed me down a bunch, so that's really annoying. But even with the beacons, the respawn rate here is amazing. Everything takes less than a minute to respawn, so you can gather a lot of herbs without having to travel very far. I ended up farming here for about 12 minutes, and ended up with about 7,000 gold. That works out to about 500 gold per minute. It's pretty good, but the other routes in this video are much better. Now, onto my favourite route. Let's go to Ardenweald. We'll get Phaedrum Ore and Vigil's Torch here, in the southwestern corner of Ardenweald. If you watched my last video, you'd be quite familiar with this route. Now that we've all got flying, I've made some optimizations. The route here is a lot longer than the other places I've shown so far. That's because these nodes take a lot longer to respawn, so we have to make our route a little bit longer. Now there's an absolute ton of herbs and ore for us to farm here. Just make sure you stick to the route and don't get too distracted. As always, here's the map, and let's draw in the route and just look at all those herbs. In my last video, I showed you that the trick to this area is the mushrooms. When you touch one, it bounces you into the air and gives you stealth for 60 seconds. This is really strong, and you should still be using these mushrooms, even with flying. If you look right here, this demon hunter pulls mobs from all over the place, whereas I'm able to slip in, grab the nodes, slip out. He's left fighting the mobs, so use the mushrooms. Now this is where I normally start my route, so let's start the stopwatch and get going. There's almost always a node near this first mushroom. So we grab the Phaedrum Ore here first, and then we fly into the mushroom. I've got this big WEAKAURA here on my screen that tracks how long I've got stealth for. At the end of the video, I'll talk a little bit about add-ons, but this is a really good indicator that lets me know whether or not I can ignore the mobs. I usually just clear out the top half of this maze area, and once I've got everything, I hit this next mushroom and bounce out of the tangle. We race up the edge of the map here. There's usually a couple of nodes here to pick up. And then we cruise on up to this top half of the route in an area called the Elder's Stand. Now it's a good idea to make sure you have the mushroom buff up here, as there's a lot of elites and they're quite easy to pull if you're not too careful. I've also covered up some of the fake herbs here with icons. I'll talk about these icons at the end of the video when I talk about the other add-ons. So all up, it takes about 2 minutes to do a lap of this route. I collected close to 3,000 gold in 2 minutes. That's incredible. That's about 1,500 gold each minute. But can we sustain this? Can we keep making this much gold if we keep going? Well, let's pick up a mushroom buff for our second lap and let's fast forward through it. Now the biggest problem with this route is that there can be a lot of competition around here. There's a lot of other people farming, a lot of people know about this route, but I find that if you stick to the route, it generally turns out pretty good. Sometimes you'll end up doing an entire lap without finding a single herb. That's fine. If you stick to the route, the herbs should start respawning. This route is nice and short, so that as things respawn, you should be the first one to get there to get that respawn. Other people tend not to follow a route and they just fly around randomly, but if you follow the route, you get a bit of an advantage, as you'll be the first one in line to get those respawns. So here we are, we're nearing the 10-minute mark. I ended up getting a little over 9,000 gold in 10 minutes, so that's about 900 gold a minute. So this is still one of the best farming places in all of Shadowlands, and it's absolutely my go-to spot. Now I just wanted to quickly say, this channel is really tiny, so if you want to help me out, it would be really great if you could just take 2 seconds to subscribe. Now let's move on to the last route. We're going to Maldraxxus. Here we'll get some Oxxien Ore, down in the bottom left corner. Here in the House of the Chosen, there's quite a few elite mobs to watch out for, but if you're careful, you can avoid absolutely everything. This is one of the most simple routes ever. It's basically just a rectangle, with a bunch of ore spawning in each corner. So let's have a look on a map. It's really just a simple square, and this is where the nodes are. So one thing to watch out for is there's a few flying mobs that tend to aggro. Most of these are pretty weak and you can easily kill them if you accidentally pull them, But yeah, try to avoid them if you can. Even though they die pretty quickly, if you pull too many, they'll really start to slow down your farm. So let's do this. I'll start here at the House of the Chosen. I'll start my stopwatch, and let's go. We get our first node right here, nice and easy without any drama whatsoever. But with the next node, I stupidly ran forward after mining it and pulled some aggro. I was able to drop thread and keep going, but come on, that was a rookie mistake. So now we cross over to the other side, grab a node up here on this far corner, watch out for these flying elites, and we fly through to find the 4th node, and that's the last node. And that's it. It's such a simple route, just 4 nodes, and you're done in 1 minute. Super quick, super simple. Even though this route is so quick, everything has already respawned, so we can keep going around and around. Now this ore doesn't sell for all that much on my server. Maybe it sells for more on your server, but although I'm getting bucket loads of ore, I'm just not making a whole bunch of gold. Now don't get me wrong, I'm still making about 500 gold per minute, which is really good. But the last route I showed you might be a bit more worthwhile. But one bonus of this place is I very rarely see other people farming here, so you can pretty much have the whole place to yourself. Prior to 9.1, you used to be able to get Marrowroot here as well, but it looks like Blizzard removed all the herbs at some point, so that's a bit upsetting. You can see here on Wowhead that there used to be a bunch of Marrowroot here. Anyway, that's not the case anymore. So I pull a couple of mobs here which slows me down a bunch, and all up I've farmed here for about 11 minutes. I made about 6,500 gold, which is close to about 600 gold a minute, so not bad at all. A nice, quick, simple little farm that pays pretty decently. Now let's talk about Marrowroot. Honestly, I don't know any good places to farm it. I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend to show you some lame route that doesn't work. I honestly do not think that there are any good places to farm it. So you can try just randomly flying around the zone, but you'll probably end up with a whole bunch of Death Blossom which will cut into your profits. So 10 minutes of farming and almost half of my haul was Death Blossom. Only 4,000 gold, that's pretty terrible. So if you know a good way of getting Marrowroot, let me know. Post a comment. Otherwise, just do what I do and buy it off the auction house. Seriously. Now I don't know if you guys know this, but I've made some pretty cool videos on the story of Warcraft. From the original Warcraft games right through to WoW. Maybe it's something you could watch while you're farming. A dark portal to another world was opened, and orcs came flooding into the world of Azeroth. I get a lot of comments asking about my add-ons, so I thought it might be a good idea if I go through them. My minimap over here is big and square. I use an add-on called Sexy Map for this. I use the preset of Simple Square and crank the scale up to 3. To track the herbs and ore on my minimap, I use GatherMate 2. I like to make the minerals red and the herbs green so I can easily tell them apart. The routes I follow are made using the Roots add-on. So you type /roots to bring up the options. On the left, click on Roots, paste in the route and press Accept. If you want to copy my routes, I've left links down in the description. I've also got all these markers on my minimap to mark where the mushrooms are. I use handy notes for this. To add a new marker, you just type /HNnew, give your new marker a name, select the icon you want to use and press OK. It'll then show up on your minimap, as well as on your world map. To delete it, you just need to right click and select Delete. I use WEAKAURAs to track the mushroom buff. Just type /WA to open the WEAKAURA options, press New Aura, then Import. Paste in the import string, then press Import. The link for the WEAKAURA is down in the description. Now my gold tracker down here is also a WEAKAURA. A lot of people have asked for it, but it's really buggy and will probably make your game crash, so I don't really want to share it. But basically, I use the Trade Skillmaster add-on to get the current auction house prices, and I basically hacked together some custom code. So if you know what you're doing, for each herb, I slapped in a custom function here. This takes the item ID, which you can look up on Wowhead. It queries the TSM API to get the price, and returns it as a formatted string. For the totals, I basically do the same thing, except I have a list of all the herbs and ores. I loop through each one and add up the total. So if you know what you're doing, feel free to copy that. But if it can't find the TSM price or something, you're going to get a ton of errors and your game might crash. So do this at your own risk. Thanks so much for your company. I hope you make tons of gold. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.